Tesla Model S, the electric luxury revolution that changed the world. The early 2000s, a time of flip phones, dial-up internet, and the hum of gasoline engines. The idea of an electric car wasn't new, but for most people, it was a joke. They were seen as glorified golf carts, slow, clumsy, with a battery life that couldn't get you to the next town over. They were impractical toys for eccentrics, not serious vehicles for the open road. The future of driving, everyone thought, was bigger, louder, and thirstier for fuel. But in the quiet corners of Silicon Valley, a different idea was taking shape. A whisper of a revolution. In 2003, a small group of engineers, led by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, founded a company with a name that paid homage to a visionary inventor, Tesla Motors. Their ambition wasn't just to build an electric car. It was to prove that electric cars could be better than gasoline cars. Faster, more efficient, and more thrilling to drive. This wasn't about making a compromise for the environment. This was about creating a superior machine. It was a monumental dream, born in a world that wasn't ready to listen. The challenge was immense. They weren't just building a car. They were building an entirely new kind of car from the ground up, without the massive infrastructure and 100-year head start of the automotive giants in Detroit. Think about the sheer audacity of that goal. They needed to invent their own battery technology, their own motor, their own software. Everything had to be created from scratch. Most people in the auto industry, and even in the tech world, thought they were crazy. They were a tiny startup trying to take on a global industry worth trillions of dollars. The odds were stacked against them so high you couldn't see the top. This is the story of how that quiet beginning, that seemingly impossible dream, ignited a fire. It's a story of ambition meeting innovation head-on. It's a meditative look at what it takes to stare into the face of skepticism and say, "We can do this." The journey begins not with a roar, but with the silent, determined work of a few believers who saw a different future. They started with a simple, elegant idea. Take the lightweight chassis of a Lotus Elise sports car and electrify it. The plan was codenamed Roadster. It was a way to prove their concept in the most dramatic fashion possible. They wanted their first car to shatter every stereotype. It wouldn't be a clunky EcoBox. It would be a lightning-fast, head-turning sports car that just happened to be electric. This initial phase was a period of intense, focused creation. Picture a small workshop filled with blueprints, circuit boards, and the low hum of machinery. The air was thick with the scent of soldering and the palpable energy of innovation. It was here, in this quiet incubator of ideas, that the DNA of Tesla was forged. It was a culture of first principles thinking, of questioning every assumption about how a car should be built. The team was small, but their talent was immense. They were engineers and dreamers who had left comfortable jobs at established companies to chase this wild idea. They worked grueling hours, fueled by cheap pizza and an unshakable belief that they were on the cusp of something world-changing. Every day brought a new problem to solve, a new barrier to overcome. How do you manage the heat from thousands of tiny lithium-ion cells? How do you write the code to control the power flow with millisecond precision? These weren't just engineering problems. They were fundamental questions that no one had truly answered for a mass-market vehicle before. The established automakers had dabbled in electric concepts, but none had committed to solving these core issues. Tesla had no choice. Their entire existence depended on it. This quiet, almost meditative period of pure innovation is often overlooked in the grand narrative of Tesla. Before the media storms, before the roller coaster stock prices, and before the larger-than-life personalities took center stage, there was this foundational moment. It was a time of pure, unadulterated ambition. It's a powerful reminder that every revolution starts with a small, dedicated group of people who refuse to accept the status quo. They weren't just building a product. They were crafting a statement. A statement that the future didn't have to be a continuation of the past. That a better way was possible, powered by ingenuity and a relentless drive to innovate. This was the quiet, deliberate first step on a journey that would ultimately reshape the entire automotive world and beyond. The engine of change was just beginning to turn. And so, as the world sped along in its gas-guzzling cars, largely unaware, the seeds of an electric revolution were being carefully planted in a small corner of California. The road ahead was long and fraught with peril, but the vision was clear. To build a car that would not just change how we drive, but how we think about energy, technology, and the very nature of progress itself. This was the calm before the storm, the quiet beginning of a very loud story. Thank you so much for joining me on this first chapter of an incredible journey. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss the next episode, where things really start to heat up. We'll see you in the next one.
Welcome back to our series on the rise of Tesla. In our last chapter, we explored the spark that ignited the electric vehicle revolution. Today, we're diving into Chapter 2. The visionaries behind the voltage. Who were the masterminds who dared to dream of an electric future when the world was still addicted to gasoline? Let's turn back the clock to 2003. The idea of a high-performance electric car was, for most people, pure science fiction, but not for two Silicon Valley engineers, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. These weren't your typical auto exec. They were tech guys, bibliophiles, and innovators who had already found success with one of the first e-readers, the Rocket e-book. After selling their company, they were searching for their next big challenge. Both were deeply concerned about America's dependence on foreign oil and the growing threat of climate change. Eberhard in particular was frustrated. He wanted a sports car that didn't guzzle gas, but the options were, well, non-existent. The electric cars of the time were slow, clunky, and frankly, uninspiring. They looked more like glorified golf carts than desirable vehicles. So, Eberhard and Tarpenning had a radical idea. What if an electric car wasn't a compromise? What if it could be better, faster, more exciting to drive than any gasoline car on the market? They envisioned a vehicle that people would desire not just because it was green, but because it was an incredible piece of engineering and design. This wasn't about sacrifice. It was about superiority. With this vision, they incorporated Tesla Motors on July 1st, 2003, named, of course, after the brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla. Eberhard became the CEO, the driving force and public face of the company, while Tarpenning took on the role of CFO and head of electrical engineering, managing the intricate technical and financial groundwork. But a vision, no matter how brilliant, needs fuel, and in the world of startups, that fuel is capital. This is where our story introduces another pivotal figure, a name that would soon become synonymous with Tesla itself, Elon Musk. Fresh from his massive success with PayPal, which Eva had acquired for a staggering $1.5 billion, Musk was also dreaming of an electric future. He had his own ideas about electrifying transport and even exploring space. He wasn't just another investor. He was a fellow visionary with a deep-seated passion for engineering and a belief that humanity needed to accelerate its transition to sustainable energy. Initially, Musk was just an investor. He led Tesla's Series A funding round in early 2004, investing a substantial portion of his PayPal fortune around $6.5 million and becoming the chairman of the board. From the very beginning, his involvement was hands-on. He wasn't content to just sit in board meetings. He was deeply engaged in the design and engineering of Tesla's first car, the Roadster. Musk shared Eberhard and Tarpenning's core belief. Electric cars had to be cool. They had to destroy the stereotype of the boring, eco-friendly vehicle. His philosophy was clear. To convince the world to go electric, you first had to build a car that people lusted after. It had to be fast, it had to be beautiful, and it had to prove that electric performance could blow gasoline-powered sports cars off the road. Together, this trio formed the initial core of Tesla's leadership. You had Eberhard, the passionate CEO with the initial product vision. You had Tarpenning, the brilliant engineer and steady hand managing the complex backend. And you had Musk, the ambitious chairman with deep pockets and an even deeper conviction to change the world. But let's be clear. These early days were anything but certain. Tesla was a tiny startup trying to do something the biggest car companies in the world had failed at for a century: build a commercially viable electric car. They were operating out of a small office in Menlo Park, California, facing immense skepticism from the auto industry, the media, and even the tech world. The challenges were monumental. They weren't just building a car. They were creating an entire powertrain from scratch. They had to figure out how to safely manage thousands of lithium-ion battery cells, the same kind you'd find in a laptop, to power a high-performance vehicle. This had never been done before on this scale. The technical hurdles were enormous. Costs were spiraling, and the timeline for their first product, the Roadster, was constantly being pushed back. They were burning through cash at an alarming rate. Many insiders and observers predicted their imminent failure. The question wasn't asterisk if asterisk they would fail, but asterisk when asterisk. The pressure was immense. The company was walking a tightrope, constantly on the verge of collapse. Every decision was critical, and every setback felt like it could be the final blow. It was in this crucible of uncertainty and pressure that the foundational DNA of Tesla was forged. A culture of relentless problem-solving, of pushing the boundaries of what was considered possible, and an unwavering commitment to the mission, even when failure seemed inevitable. The early partnership between Elon and Musk was the engine that powered Tesla through these turbulent beginnings. They were visionaries who saw a different future, one powered by voltage, not gasoline. But as we'll explore in our next chapter, even the strongest alliances can be tested under pressure. The road ahead was filled with internal power struggles, technical nightmares, and a financial crisis that would bring the company to the very brink of extinction. The story of the visionaries behind Tesla is a powerful lesson in entrepreneurship, proving that with enough conviction, talent, and a touch of audacity, a small team can set out to change the world. Their journey was just beginning, and the ride was about to get a whole lot bumpier. Thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story of Tesla, please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss Chapter 3. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these early founders in the comments below. See you next time. Welcome back to our series. In our last chapter, we left off with a bold idea and a fledgling company. Today, we dive into the car that started it all. The one that proved electric vehicles weren't just glorified golf carts. This is the story of the original Tesla Roadster. Imagine this. It's the mid-2000s. The idea of a high-performance electric car sounds like science fiction. Hybrids were practical, but nobody associated batteries with adrenaline. Then, out of nowhere, this sleek, stunning sports car appears. It didn't just turn heads, it completely shattered perceptions. This was the Tesla Roadster, and it was a revolution on four wheels. So, what exactly was this machine? At its core, the Roadster was a brilliant act of automotive alchemy. Tesla, still a small startup, didn't have the resources to design a car from the ground up. So, they made a clever deal. They took the chassis of a well-respected, lightweight British sports car, the Lotus Elison, prepared to give it a completely new heart. Think of it like a world-class athlete receiving a bionic transplant. They took the glider, the rolling chassis without a powertrain from Lotus, and began the painstaking process of transforming it into something the world had never seen before. The real magic, the secret sauce, was what Tesla put inside. They ripped out the gasoline engine, the fuel tank, the exhaust system, all the vestiges of the internal combustion era. In their place, they engineered a state-of-the-art electric powertrain. The centerpiece was a massive battery pack, a complex assembly of nearly 7,000 individual lithium-ion cells, the kind you'd find in a laptop, but engineered into a robust, vehicle-grade system. This wasn't just a battery. It was the car's soul. It weighed nearly 1,000 pounds and was the most expensive and complex component of the entire vehicle. This battery powered an advanced AC induction motor, a descendant of Nikola Tesla's original 1888 design. But this was no museum piece. It was a compact powerhouse capable of spinning at over 13,000 RPM and delivering instant, breathtaking torque. The moment you pressed the accelerator, you got 100% of the car's power. There was no lag, no waiting for the engine to rev up, just pure, silent, relentless acceleration. It was a sensation that drivers of traditional sports cars could only dream of. The numbers were staggering for the time. The Roadster could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. That put it in the same league as Porsches and Ferraris. It was faster than everything on the road, and it did it all in near total silence, with just the whir of the electric motor and the rush of the wind. It was an entirely new driving experience. You weren't just driving a car, you were piloting a piece of the future. The feeling of that instant torque pinning you to your seat was addictive. It proved, unequivocally, that electric and exciting could belong in the same sentence. But the Roadster wasn't just about raw speed. It was also about proving that electric cars could be practical for daily enjoyment. With a range of about 245 miles on a single charge, it obliterated the myth that EVs were only good for short trips around town. You could actually go on a proper road trip, enjoy winding country roads, and not have to worry about being stranded. This was a game changer. It showed that you didn't have to sacrifice freedom for sustainability. The design, based on the beautiful Lotus Elise, was already a winner. It was low, wide, and aerodynamic. It screamed performance. But Tesla didn't just slap their badge on it. They made significant modifications. The body was constructed fiber, a material typically reserved for supercars, to offset the weight of the heavy battery pack. This made the car incredibly light and rigid, contributing to its go-kart-like handling. Driving the Roadster was a visceral experience. You felt connected to the road in a way that few cars can replicate. Inside, it was a true sports car cockpit. It was minimalist, driver-focused, and a bit raw. It wasn't about luxury in the traditional sense, with acres of leather and wood. It was about the luxury of performance. It had modern touches, like a digital display showing your range and energy consumption, which was revolutionary at the time. It was a blend of old-school sports car feel and new-age technology. However, the journey to production was anything but smooth. It was a trial by fire for the young company. They faced immense challenges. Integrating their brand-new powertrain into the Lotus chassis was far more difficult than anticipated. There were issues with the transmission, cooling systems, and the complex battery management software. These weren't just bugs. They were fundamental engineering hurdles that threatened to sink the entire project. The company was burning through cash at an alarming rate. Timelines kept getting pushed back, and costs spiraled. The initial price target for the car was around $92,000, but the final cost to build each one was significantly higher. Tesla was actually losing money on every single Roadster they sold. It was a high-stakes gambling. The pressure was immense, not just from investors, but from a skeptical public and a watchful automotive industry, many of whom were waiting, and perhaps even hoping, for Tesla to fail. The stories from that era are legendary. Engineers sleeping at the factory, working around the clock to solve impossible problems. Every delay, every setback was another blow. At several points, the company was just weeks, or even days, away from bankruptcy. It was a heroic effort, fueled by a shared belief in the mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Despite all these struggles, they persevered. Between 2008 and 2012, Tesla managed to build and sell around 2,450 Roadsters. It was a tiny number by automotive standards, a limited production run. But its impact was immeasurable. Each one of those cars was an ambassador for a new era of mobility. The Roadster found its way into the garages of tech pioneers, celebrities, and early adopters who were willing to take a chance on a radical new idea. They weren't just buying a car, they were buying a piece of history. They were funding a dream. The revenue from these sales, and more importantly, the lessons learned from building and servicing these cars, were absolutely critical. The Roadster was Tesla's master plan in action. It was the expensive, low-volume sports car that was necessary to fund the development of the next vehicle. It was a proof of concept on a grand scale. It demonstrated that there was a real market for compelling electric vehicles. It forced the entire auto industry to sit up and take notice. Suddenly, electric cars weren't a joke anymore. They were a serious threat. Looking back, the original Roadster might seem a bit quaint compared to today's EV. Its range and charging speed have been surpassed, but its significance cannot be overstated. It was the spark. It was the car that lit the fuse on the electric vehicle revolution. It proved that you could build an EV that people would not just tolerate, but desire. It was fast, it was beautiful, and it was a glimpse into a cleaner, more exciting automotive future. The Roadster was more than just a car. It was a statement. It was a declaration that the age of the electric vehicle had truly begun, and it set the stage for something much, much bigger. The lessons learned, the technology developed, and the reputation built from this one incredible car would pave the way for the vehicle that would truly bring Tesla to the masses. And that's exactly where we're headed in our next chapter. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legendary Tesla Roadster. It's a story of innovation, perseverance, and daring ambition. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit that like button and make sure you resubscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss what's coming next. We love reading your comments, so let me know what you think about the original Roadster down below. We'll see you in the next one. From a niche, high-performance sports car to a vehicle that could truly change the world. This was the monumental leap Tesla was about to take. The Roadster was a brilliant proof of concept. It showed the world that electric cars could be fast, desirable, and exhilarating. It turned heads, broke records, and most importantly, it generated the crucial initial capital and, even more valuable, the engineering know-how for Tesla's next, much grander act. This was the dawn of a new vision, a dream of mass appeal. The mission was no longer just about proving a point. It was about starting a revolution. And the flagship of this revolution would be a car codenamed White Star. We would come to know it as the Tesla Model S. Elon Musk and his team weren't just thinking about building another electric car. They were aiming for the heart of the automotive establishment. Their sights were set on the titans of the luxury sedan market. The BMW 5 Series, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and the Audi A6. These were the benchmarks for performance, comfort, and prestige. To compete with them was audacious. To aim to beat them with a completely new technology, a technology many still considered a novelty, was borderline insane. The vision for the Model S was uncompromising. It had to be beautiful, with sleek, aerodynamic lines that would make it stand out in any parking lot. It had to be incredibly fast, delivering the instant, silent acceleration that was becoming a hallmark of electric powertrains. It needed a spacious, luxurious interior, one that felt futuristic and intuitive, centered around a groundbreaking touchscreen that would replace nearly all physical buttons and knobs. This wasn't just a car. It was a sophisticated piece of technology on wheels. But the most critical challenge was range. Range anxiety was the biggest barrier to EV adoption. If Tesla wanted to convince buyers to ditch their gasoline-powered German sedans, the Model S had to offer a range that was not just practical, but liberating. It needed to be a car you could confidently take on a long road trip, without constantly worrying about finding the next charging station. The goal was to build a car that could travel hundreds of miles on a single charge, a feat that seemed almost impossible with the battery technology of the time. The development of the Model S was a high-stakes gambling. The money earned from the Roadster was just a down payment on the colossal investment required to design, engineer, and mass-produce a brand-new car from scratch. Tesla had to build its own factory, develop a revolutionary battery pack architecture, and write millions of lines of software code to control every aspect of the vehicle. The design, led by Franz von Holzhausen, who was famously poached from Mazda, aimed for timeless elegance. The team wanted a car that would look as good in 10 years as it did on day one. They obsessed over every curve and every detail. The flush door handles that would present themselves as you approached, the panoramic glass roof, the enormous front trunk or frunk, where a gas engine would normally be. Each feature was designed to be both functional and a statement of intent. This was the future, and it was better in every way. Inside, the departure from tradition was even more radical. The centerpiece was the massive 17-inch touchscreen. In an era when most car infotainment systems were clunky and slow, this was a revelation. It controlled everything from navigation and music to climate control and vehicle settings. It was a bold move that signaled Tesla's identity as a tech company as much as a car company. And crucially, the car could receive over-the-air software updates, meaning it would actually get better over time, a concept completely foreign to the traditional auto industry. The engineering team faced the monumental task of creating the car's skateboard platform. This involved integrating the battery pack into the floor of the vehicle, which had several brilliant advantages. It created an incredibly low center of gravity, giving the Model S sports car-like handling. It also maximized interior space, creating a flat floor and a cavernous cabin for passengers and cargo. This innovative design would become the blueprint for most future electric vehicles. But the path wasn't smooth. Tesla was burning through cash at an alarming rate. The company faced near-death experiences, production delays, and a barrage of skepticism from industry analysts and the media. Many believed it was an impossible dream, a classic case of Silicon Valley hubris destined to crash and burn. Could a small startup from California really take on the century-old giants of the automotive world and win? As they raced towards the 2012 launch, the pressure was immense. The fate of the entire company rested on the success of this one car. The Model S wasn't just a product, it was the physical embodiment of Tesla's mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. It had to be more than just a good electric car. It had to be the best car in the world. Period. The dream of mass appeal was about to face its ultimate test. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying this journey through the history of Tesla, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter. We'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome back to our deep dive into the story of the Tesla Model S. In our previous chapters, we explored the spark of the idea and the engineering marvels that brought it to life. Today, in Chapter 5, we're stepping into the design studio to uncover the philosophy that shaped the car's iconic look. We're talking about designing the future. How do you design a car that has no precedent? When you remove the engine, the transmission tunnel, and the exhaust pipes, you're not just changing the mechanics, you're liberating the very form of the automobile. This was the challenge and the opportunity that faced Franz von Holzhausen, Tesla's chief designer. When he set out to create the Model S, the mission was clear but incredibly ambitious. Create a car that wasn't just different, but fundamentally better. It had to be beautiful, efficient, and unmistakably a Tesla. Before joining Tesla in 2008, Franz had a rich history with major automakers like Volkswagen, GM, and Mazda, where he was responsible for projects like the Pontiac Solstice and the Mazda Kabura concept. He had a deep understanding of classic automotive design principles. But at Tesla, he was given a chance to rewrite the rulebook. The goal wasn't to shout electric with quirky, unconventional styling. Instead, the philosophy was one of subtle revolution, creating a car so compelling and beautiful that its electric nature was just one of its many incredible attributes. The core principle that guided Franz and his team was a form of radical minimalism. The idea was that true beauty and sophistication emerge not from adding more, but from taking away everything that is unnecessary. Every line, every curve, and every surface on the Model S had to justify its existence. If it didn't serve a purpose either for aerodynamics, function, or pure aesthetic elegance, it was eliminated. This is much harder than it sounds. It requires an obsessive attention to detail and a commitment to purity of form. Let's start with the silhouette, the car's most defining feature. Look at the Model S from the side. It has this long, flowing, almost liquid profile. The roofline arcs gracefully from the front windshield all the way to the rear spoiler, creating a fastback shape that is both sporty and elegant. This wasn't just for looks. This sleek shape was crucial for aerodynamics, a key factor in maximizing an electric car's range. The lower the drag, the less energy the car needs to push through the air, and the farther it can go on a single charge. The Model S achieved a drag coefficient that was, at the time, one of the lowest of any production car. It looked like it was slicing through the wind, because it was. One of the most talked about design elements, or rather, the lack of one, is the grille. For over a century, the front grille has been the face of the car, a signature element for every brand. It was a functional necessity, allowing air to flow in and cool the internal combustion engine. But the Model S didn't have a large engine to cool. So, why keep the grille? The design team made the bold decision to replace the traditional gaping maw with a smooth, sculpted nose cone. This was a powerful statement. It immediately signaled that this car was different. It was a clean break from the past, a visual representation of the technological shift happening under the skin. The absence of the grille became a more powerful signature than any intricate chrome design could ever be. It was beauty through subtraction. This philosophy of clean, uncluttered design extends to the entire body of the car. Notice the body panels. They are remarkably smooth, with tight, consistent panel gaps. There are no superfluous chrome strips, no fake vents, no necessary crevasses. The door handles are a perfect example of this. Instead of a conventional handle that interrupts the surface, the Model S features handles that sit perfectly flush with the door. They elegantly present themselves when you approach with the key and retract seamlessly as you drive away. This isn't just a cool party trick. It's a perfect marriage of form, function, and a little bit of magic. It enhances the car's clean lines, improves aerodynamics, and creates a moment of delightful interaction for the owner. It's a detail that says, "We thought about everything." Even the lighting was real. The headlights are sharp and focused, like an eagle's eyes, giving the car a sense of alertness and precision. They blend smoothly into the fenders, avoiding any harsh interruptions. The tillits wrap around the corners, emphasizing the car's wide, athletic stance. Every element flows into the next, creating a cohesive and harmonious whole. Franz von Holzhausen described the process as creating a beautiful sculpture, then carefully carving out only what's necessary for it to be a car. This minimalist approach didn't just make the car beautiful, it made it timeless. By avoiding trendy design gimmicks and focusing on pure, classic proportions, the Model S has managed to look fresh and modern even years after its debut. Think about how many cars from the early 2010s already look dated. The Model S, however, has an enduring quality. Its design is based on fundamental principles of beauty and efficiency, not fleeting fashions. It's a design that respects the intelligence of the observer, inviting you to appreciate its subtle elegance, rather than shouting for your attention. The result of this disciplined, philosophical approach is a car that feels both powerful and serene. It has the presence of a luxury sedan, the performance profile of a sports car, and the clean, intelligent aura of a product from the future. It's a design that doesn't just please the eye, but also engages the mind. It makes you think about what a car can be when you start from a clean sheet of paper. The design of the Model S was a declaration that the future of the automobile would not be a compromise. It would be more beautiful, more efficient, and more desirable than what came before. Franz von Holzhausen and his team didn't just style a car. They sculpted an icon. They proved that the most advanced technology could be wrapped in a package of pure, unadulterated beauty. They designed the future, and it was breathtakingly simple. Thank you for joining me for this chapter. The story is far from over. Next time, we're stepping inside the Model S to explore its revolutionary interior, dominated by that massive touchscreen that changed the automotive world forever. It's an episode you won't want to miss. If you're enjoying this series, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you get notified when the next chapter drops. We appreciate your support more than you know. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the evolution of electric vehicles. Today, we're diving into Chapter 6, Engineering the Impossible. Ever wondered how a quiet, family sedan could suddenly challenge The answer lies not just in what you see, but in the revolutionary engineering hidden beneath the floor. We're about to uncover the secrets behind the Tesla Model S's astonishing performance and game-changing range. It's a story of brilliant minds rethinking everything from the ground up. So, how did they do it? How did they crack the code that had stumped automakers for a century? The challenge was immense. Create a battery that was powerful, long-lasting, safe, and didn't compromise the car's design or handling. The conventional approach was to find a space for bulky battery modules, often leading to awkward weight distribution and compromised cabin space. Tesla's engineers, however, chose a different path. Their masterstroke was the skateboard chassis. Instead of cramming batteries into the trunk or under the seats, they designed a massive, flat battery pack that forms the entire floor of the car. This wasn't just a battery, it was the structural foundation of the Model S. Imagine thousands of small, cylindrical battery cells, similar to the ones in your laptop but far more advanced, meticulously arranged and connected into a single, unified slab. This design was ingenious for several reasons. First, it created an incredibly low center of gravity. Think about it. The heaviest component of the car was positioned at the lowest possible point, spread evenly from wheel to wheel. This is the holy grail for vehicle dynamics. It makes the car feel glued to the road, providing extraordinary stability and handling, especially in corners. There's no top-heavy feeling, just a confident, planted ride that was previously the domain of low-slung sports cars. This underfloor battery also had a profound effect on the car's structure. It became an integral part of the chassis, adding immense rigidity. A stiffer frame means better handling, a quieter ride, and enhanced safety. The battery pack essentially acts as a massive shield, protecting the occupants and strengthening the car's core. This single design decision solved multiple engineering problems at once: weight distribution, structural integrity, and interior space. With the batteries sorted, the next piece of the puzzle was the drivetrain. How do you translate all that electrical energy into mind-bending speed? Traditional gasoline cars are a complex ballet of pistons, crankshafts, gears, and drive shafts, all working to get power to the wheels. This process is inherently inefficient, with a lot of energy lost as heat and friction. The Model S, on the other hand, embraced the beautiful simplicity of an electric motor. Tesla's induction motor was a marvel of efficiency. It's a relatively small, compact unit with just one major moving part: the rotor. When you press the accelerator, electricity flows into the stator, creating a rotating magnetic field that spins the rotor. This rotation is transferred directly to the wheels through a simple single-speed gearbox. The result is instantaneous torque. There's no waiting for an engine to rev up, no lag while a transmission shifts gears. The moment you touch the pedal, 100% of the motor's power is available. This is the secret behind that famous jaw-dropping acceleration. It's a silent, relentless wave of power that pushes you back in your seat, redefining what you thought a car was capable of. But it wasn't just about raw power. The engineers had to balance this incredible performance with the need for long-range travel. This is where software and sophisticated battery management came into play. The system constantly monitors the state of every single cell in the pack, managing, charging, and discharging to maximize both performance and longevity. It is a delicate dance between delivering power when you demand it and conserving energy when you're recruising. The regenerative braking system is another key part of this equation. When you lift your foot off the accelerator, the electric motor essentially runs in reverse. It uses the car's momentum to generate electricity, which is then fed back into the battery. It is like having a small power station on board that recharges your battery every time you slow down. This not only extends the car's range significantly, especially in city driving, but also reduces wear on the traditional brakes. This holistic approach to skateboard battery, the efficient motor, and the intelligent software was what made the Model S a landmark vehicle. It wasn't just an electric car. It was a better car. It proved that you didn't have to choose between efficiency and performance, or between practicality and excitement. You could have it all. The engineers didn't just put a battery in a car. They re-engineered the car around the battery. This philosophy completely shattered the old expectations of what an EV could be. No longer were they seen as slow, compromised eco-boxes. The Model S was desirable, fast, and capable of long-distance travel. It was a testament to the power of first principles thinking, of tearing up the old rulebook and designing for a new era. They engineered the impossible and, in doing so, paved the way for the future of transportation. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the engineering brilliance of the Model S. It's a story that continues to inspire. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment below with your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious.
Welcome back to our series on the journey of Tesla. Today, we're diving into Chapter 7, the Gigafactory Dream. This isn't just a story about a big building. It's about a revolutionary idea that changed the game for electric vehicles and energy storage forever. So, what exactly is the Gigafactory? Picture this. It's the early 2010s. Tesla has successfully launched the Model S, proving that electric cars can be desirable, high-performance vehicles. But Elon Musk and his team were staring at a massive bottleneck, a huge hurdle that could stop the EV revolution dead in its tracks: batteries. At the time, the entire world's lithium-ion battery production was barely enough to supply a fraction of the cars Tesla planned to build. Batteries were incredibly expensive, accounting for a huge portion of an EV's cost, and the supply chain was fragile and scattered across the globe. Musk knew that to achieve his mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, he couldn't just build cars. He had to build the machine that builds the machine. And in this case, the most critical machine was the one that would produce batteries at a scale the world had never seen before. This is where the concept of the Gigafactory was born. The name itself, Giga, comes from the unit of measurement, representing billions. The plan was to build a factory so large that by 2020, it would produce more lithium-ion batteries annually than the entire world combined had produced in 2013. It was an audacious, almost ludicrous goal. Skeptics were everywhere. They called it a logistical nightmare, a financial black hole, and an unnecessary risk for a company that was still finding its footing. But for Musk, it was simple, inescapable logic. To make EVs affordable for everyone, you needed cheaper batteries. To get cheaper batteries, you needed economies of scale. To get economies of scale, you needed a gigantic factory. The Gigafactory wasn't just a choice, it was a necessity. The vision went far beyond just size. The Gigafactory was designed from the ground up, based on what Musk calls first principles thinking. Instead of just accepting the existing, inefficient manufacturing processes, the Tesla team questioned everything. Why are raw materials shipped across oceans multiple times before becoming a finished battery? Why are different stages of production done in separate buildings, or even separate countries? The solution was vertical integration. The Gigafactory was designed to bring the entire battery manufacturing process under one enormous roof. Raw materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel would come in one end, and fully assembled battery packs would roll out the other. This would slash transportation costs, simplify logistics, and allow for an unprecedented level of quality control and process optimization. Another key principle was efficiency, in every sense of the word. The factory itself was designed to be a net-zero energy building, powered primarily by a massive solar array on its roof, and supplemented by geothermal and wind power. This wasn't just a PR move, it was a core part of the mission. It would be hypocritical to build products for a sustainable future in a factory that pollutes the environment. The layout of the factory floor was meticulously planned, like a complex circuit board to minimize the distance materials and components had to travel. Robots would handle the heavy lifting and repetitive tasks, working 24/7 with a precision humans could never match. This relentless focus on efficiency was the key to driving down the cost per kilowatt hour, the holy grail metric in the battery world. So in 2014, construction began on Gigafactory 1, just outside Reno, Nevada. The sheer scale was mind-boggling. The initial footprint was just a fraction of the final planned size, but it was already one of the largest buildings in the world. As the steel skeleton rose from the desert floor, it became a symbol of Musk's long-term vision. This wasn't just about the Model 3, the affordable EV that the factory was being built to support. It was about a future where homes are powered by solar panels and store energy in Powerwall batteries, where the grid is stabilized by massive power pack installations, and where transportation is entirely electric, all powered by batteries made in gigafactories around the world. The factory was the physical manifestation of Tesla's master plan. The impact of the Gigafactory cannot be overstated. It sent a shockwave through the automotive and energy industries. Suddenly, legacy automakers who had been dabbling in EVs realized they were years, maybe even a decade, behind. Battery suppliers saw that a new player was rewriting the rules of the game. The Gigafactory effectively forced the entire industry to accelerate its own electrification plans. It proved that mass-producing batteries was possible, and by doing so, it dramatically lowered costs for everyone. The cost of a lithium-ion battery pack has fallen by nearly 90% over the last decade, and the Gigafactory is arguably the single biggest reason why. Of course, the road wasn't smooth. The ramp-up of Model 3 production, famously dubbed production hell, was directly linked to challenges in automating the battery module assembly line inside the Gigafactory. There were bottlenecks, technical glitches, and moments where it seemed the ambitious goals were simply unreachable. Musk himself was often seen sleeping on the factory floor, personally working to solve problems and remove roadblocks. It was a grueling, high-stakes battle to make the dream a reality, but they pushed through. Each problem solved, each process improved, was a lesson learned that would be applied to future gigafactories in Shanghai, Berlin, and Texas. The Gigafactory dream was about much more than just Tesla's success. It was a bold, public declaration that a sustainable energy future was not a distant fantasy, but an engineering problem that could be solved with vision, determination, and a willingness to think on a planetary scale. It was a bet on the future, and it was a bet that is fundamentally changing our world. By taking control of its own destiny and building the capacity to power its dreams, Tesla ensured its survival and solidified its position as a leader not just in cars, but in the global transition to sustainable energy. And that's the story of the Gigafactory, a testament to thinking big and building the future, one battery at a time. Thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying this series, Please hit that like button and make sure you resubscribe with notifications on so you don't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Gigafactory in the comments below. See you in the next one. Welcome back to our series on the story of Tesla. Today we're rediving into one of the most pivotal moments in automotive history. The launch of the Model S. The year is 2012. The air is thick with anticipation. After years of development, setbacks, and a whole lot of hype, Tesla is finally ready to unveil its first mass-market, ground-up creation. This wasn't just another car launch. It was a moment that would either make or break the company. Picture the scene, a packed event space at the Tesla factory in Fremont, California. The crowd is a mix of early reservation holders, journalists, investors, and die-hard fans. They've been waiting for this for years. Elon Musk takes the stage, not just as a CEO but as a showman presenting his masterpiece. The tension is palpable. Then, the lights dim, the music swells, and a sleek, silent sedan glides onto the stage. No engine roar, no exhaust fumes, just the quiet hum of an electric motor. The crowd erupts. This is the Tesla Model S. It looked like something from the future. Its design was elegant and aerodynamic, with clean lines and those iconic flush door handles that would pop out to greet you. But the real showstopper was inside. Dominated by a massive 17-inch touchscreen, the interior was unlike anything anyone had ever seen in a car. It felt more like a Silicon Valley gadget than a traditional automobile dashboard. Buttons and knobs were replaced by a sleek, intuitive digital interface that controlled everything from the radio and navigation to the climate control and even the panoramic sunroof. This was a car built by a tech company, and it showed. The reaction from the crowd was electric, pun intended. As the first reservation holders were called up to the stage to receive their keys, the applause was thunderous. These weren't just customers. They were pioneers, early believers who had put their faith and their deposits into a radical new idea. For them, this was the culmination of a long and hopeful wait. It was more than just getting a new car. It was joining a movement. But the real test would come from the critics and the journalists who were about to get behind the wheel for the first time. The automotive world was deeply skeptical. Electric cars up to this point had been slow, clunky, and had a laughably short range. They were seen as glorified golf carts, not serious contenders against the giants of the industry. The Model S had a lot to prove. The first test drives began, and the narrative started to shift dramatically. The first thing that blew everyone away was the performance. When a driver stomped on the accelerator, there was no lag. No engine revving up, just instantaneous, silent, and relentless acceleration. It pinned you to your seat. The top-tier performance model could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 4.4 seconds, a figure that put it in the same league as high-end sports sedans from Germany. Critics were left speechless. How could a quiet, family-sized electric sedan be this fast? It defied all their expectations. Then there was the range. This was the biggest hurdle for any electric vehicle. Range anxiety was the term on everyone's lips. Tesla had made a bold promise. A car that could travel up to 265 miles on a single charge, according to the EPA. This wasn't just a small improvement. It was a revolutionary leap. It was the difference between a car that could only handle short city commutes and one that could actually be used for long-distance road trips. Journalists took it out on the open road, pushing it to its limits, and they found that Tesla's claims were not an exaggeration. For the first time, an electric car felt like a practical, no-compromise vehicle. The handling was another surprise. With its heavy battery pack located in the floor of the car, the Model S had an incredibly low center of gravity. This resulted in fantastic stability and cornering ability. It felt planted and secure on the road, more like a sports car than a large sedan. Reviewers praised its responsive steering and agile feel. It was not only fast in a straight line, but it was also genuinely fun to drive on winding roads. The combination of silent operation, brutal acceleration, and nimble handling created a driving experience that was utterly unique. But the Model S was more than just its performance and range. It was a statement about the future of transportation. It proved that you didn't have to sacrifice style, luxury, or excitement to be environmentally conscious. The car was packed with technology that made traditional automakers look ancient. Over-the-air software updates meant the car could actually get better over time, receiving new features and improvements while it sat in your garage. This was a concept borrowed from smartphones, and it was completely foreign to the auto industry. The Model S wasn't just an electric car. It was a rolling piece of cutting-edge technology. It was a high-performance machine. It was a luxurious family sedan. It managed to be all of these things at once, shattering every stereotype about what an electric vehicle could be. It didn't just meet expectations. It completely redefined them. Critics who had arrived as skeptics left as converts. Prestigious publications started handing it their Car of the Year awards, not just for being the best electric car, but for being the best car, period. The 2012 launch of the Model S wasn't just the debut of a new product. It was a thunderclap that echoed through the entire automotive world. It was the moment Tesla went from a quirky startup to a serious threat. It sent a clear message to every other car company on the planet. The future is electric, and it's already here. The Model S wasn't just a car. It was the beginning of a revolution. And that revolution was just getting started. Join us next time as we explore how the Model S and Tesla S expanding supercharger network began to change the world. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this chapter of the story, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our series. Today we're diving into Chapter 9, Silent Speed. This isn't just a chapter about a car. It's about a fundamental shift in what we perceive as performance. It's about the moment the roar of the engine was replaced by the hum of pure electricity. Picture this: the early 2010s. The world of high-performance cars was a symphony of roaring V8 South, screaming V10s, and whining turbos. Power was loud, it was aggressive. It was, for all intents and purposes, a mechanical explosion. To be fast, you had to be noisy. It was an unwritten rule, etched into the very soul of automotive culture. A car's roar wasn't just a byproduct of its power. It was the announcement of it. The louder, the better. It was a status symbol, a visceral thrill, the sound of dominance on the road. Then, a four-door sedan from a young Californian company rolled onto the scene. It looked sleek, modern, but it didn't have the gaping air intakes or the massive exhaust pipes of a traditional supercar. When it moved, it didn't roar. It didn't scream. It hummed. This was the Tesla Model S, and it was about to commit automotive heresy. The early press drives and owner videos were almost comical. You'd see a family sedan lined up against a fire-breathing supercar at a drag strip. The lights would turn green, and for a split second, nothing would happen. Then, with a faint whir, the Model S would just disappear. It would launch off the line with an immediacy that defied logic, leaving pedigreed performance machines in its silent wake. The reactions were priceless. Jaws dropped. There was a moment of disbelief, a collective, what just happened? The supercar would eventually catch up, its engine screaming in protest, but the damage was done. The quiet, unassuming sedan had won the sprint. It had proven that noise was no longer a prerequisite for speed. This was the birth of what we now call insane mode, and later, ludicrous mode. These weren't just clever marketing names. They were accurate descriptions of the experience. Pushing the accelerator in a high-performance Model S wasn't like any other car. There was no revving, no building of power. It was instantaneous. It was like flipping a light switch. One moment you were stationary. The next you were being pressed firmly into your seat by an invisible force, the world blurring past your windows. The acceleration was so relentless, so linear, that it recalibrated your senses. Your brain, conditioned to associate speed with noise and vibration, struggled to process the information. You were moving at supercar speeds, but the only sounds were the faint hum of the electric motors, the rush of wind over the bodywork, and the tires gripping the asphalt. It was a bizarre, almost surreal sensation. Passengers would erupt into laughter or screams of startled delight. It was a roller coaster ride you could control with your right foot. Let's talk about how this was even possible. An internal combustion engine is a complex dance of pistons, valves, and explosions. It takes time for the engine to rev up, for the transmission to shift, for all that mechanical energy to be delivered to the wheels. It's powerful, but it's inherently inefficient and delayed. An electric motor, on the other hand, is simplicity itself. Apply electricity, and it spins. The key is that it delivers 100% of its torque, its pulling power, from the moment it starts turning. 0 RPM, full power. There's no lag, no waiting. This is the secret to the Model S's shocking off-the-line performance. The power delivery is so direct, so immediate that it feels less like a machine and more like a force of nature. But the silent speed was more than just a party trick at the drag strip. It began to change the very experience of driving. Think about a long road trip in a traditional car. After a few hours, the constant drone of the engine and the vibration through the chassis can be fatiguing. It's a low-level stressor that you might not even consciously notice, but it wears you down. Driving the Model S was different. It was serene. Cruising on the highway, the cabin was a quiet sanctuary. You could have a conversation without raising your voice. You could listen to music with crystal clarity. The act of moving through the world at high speed became a meditative experience. It was motion without the usual commotion. Speed that hummed instead of roared. There's a strange beauty in this. It's the beauty of efficiency, of elegance. It's the feeling of gliding through the world, propelled by an unseen, silent force. It's like comparing a thundering steam train to a sleek, modern maglev. Both are fast, but one is a brute force spectacle, while the other is a demonstration of advanced, effortless grace. This shift challenged the very identity of what a performance car was supposed to be. For generations, enthusiasts, myself included, were drawn to the sound, the smell, the mechanical drama of the internal combustion engine. We loved the symphony of a well-tuned exhaust, the satisfying clunk of a gear change. The Model S asked a difficult question. What if all of that was just unnecessary baggage? What if the thrill of pure, unadulterated acceleration was enough? For many, the answer was a resounding yes. The silent speed of the Model S attracted a new kind of driver, one who valued performance but also appreciated refinement and technology. It demonstrated that you could have the heart-pounding thrill of a supercar without the environmental cost or the antisocial noise. You could drop your kids off at school and then, on a deserted road, experience acceleration that would embarrass a Ferrari, all in the same quiet, comfortable car. This concept of silent performance has now become the benchmark for the entire electric vehicle industry. Every new EV that comes out is judged by its 0 to 60 time, and the expectation is that it will be quick and quiet. The roar of the engine, once the ultimate symbol of automotive power, has been replaced by the quiet confidence of instant torque. The legacy of the Model S's silent speed is profound. It's a testament to the power of first principles thinking. By reimagining what a car could be, freed from the constraints of the combustion engine, Tesla created not just a new kind of performance, but a new kind of beauty. A beauty found in the silent, effortless, and utterly mesmerizing dance of electricity and motion. It proved that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one made in silence. Thank you so much for joining me on this chapter. It's a concept that truly fascinates me, and I hope it gave you a new perspective on performance. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next part of our journey. We love having you here. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our series. Today, we're diving into Chapter 10, the digital dashboard. This isn't just about a screen. It's about a revolution that changed how we connect with our cars forever. Picture the classic car interior, a sea of knobs, dials, and buttons, each with a single, unchangeable function. For a century, this was the norm. It was functional, familiar, but also cluttered and static. Then, Tesla came along and asked a radical question. What if a car's interior could be as dynamic and upgradable as your smartphone? The answer was the massive central touchscreen, first showcased in the Model S at the time. It was an audacious, almost reckless move. The auto industry, steeped in the traditions of Detroit, was built on hardware. Reliability meant physical, tactile controls that you could trust for years. The idea of putting nearly every function from climate control and navigation to music and vehicle settings into a single piece of glass seemed like a gamble. Critics were loud and clear. What about safety? What about reliability? What if the screen fails? But Tesla wasn't just thinking like a car company. It was thinking like a Silicon Valley tech giant. They saw the car not as a finished product, but as a platform. This central screen wasn't just a display. It was a digital command center, a dashboard in the truest sense of the word. It was a portal to a new kind of human-car interaction. This shift was profound. Suddenly, your car's interior wasn't fixed in time. Through over-the-air software updates, Tesla could add new features, improve existing ones, and even change the entire user interface overnight. Your car could literally get better while you slept. Remember when they added dog mode or sentry mode? These weren't hardware additions. They were lines of code delivered directly to that central screen. The car evolved. This approach merged two completely different worlds. It took the hardware-focused heritage of Detroit and infused it with the agile, software-first mindset of Silicon Valley. While traditional automakers were planning features years in advance, locked into physical components, Tesla was pushing updates like a mobile app developer. This created a user experience that felt alive and constantly improving. The design philosophy was one of minimalist elegance. By removing the button clutter, the cabin became cleaner, more spacious, and almost futuristic. The focus shifted from a mechanical interface to a digital one. You weren't just pressing a button. You were interacting with a sophisticated piece of software. It created a seamless, integrated experience where the car felt like an extension of your digital life. Your music, your maps, your contacts, everything was right there, unified in one sleek interface. Of course, it wasn't without its learning curve. The debate over touchscreens versus physical buttons continues to this day. Some people miss the tactile feedback of a real knob for volume or temperature. It's a valid point. Muscle memory is a powerful thing, especially when you're driving. You can't feel a virtual slider without taking your eyes off the road. Tesla's response was to constantly refine the software. They made icons larger, menus more intuitive, and added voice commands to offer a hands-free alternative. They understood that if you're going to replace physical controls, the digital replacement has to be exceptionally good. It needs to be fast, responsive, and incredibly user-friendly. The early versions had their quirks, but with each update, the system became smarter and easier to use. More than just a feature, the digital dashboard became a statement. It symbolized a break from the past and a bold step into the future of automotive design. It showed that a car could be more than just a machine to get you from point A to B. It could be an intelligent, connected device that adapts to your needs. This innovation forced the entire industry to react. Today, look inside any new car from virtually any brand. What do you see? Large touchscreens are now the standard. While few have gone to the same extreme as Tesla, the influence is undeniable. The digital dashboard redefined what a premium interior looks and feels like. It set a new benchmark for in-car technology and user experience. Tesla's gamble paid off. They proved that a car's soul isn't just in its engine or its chassis, but also in its software. By replacing buttons with a brain, they didn't just create a new dashboard. They created a new paradigm for the automobile itself, blending the best of Silicon Valley's innovation with the ambition of the automotive world. It was a pivotal moment that continues to shape the cars we drive today. Thanks so much for watching this chapter. It's a topic that really fascinates me, and I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in our journey. See you in the next one. Hello and welcome back to our series. In the last chapter, we saw how Tesla revolutionized the electric car with the Model S. But a great car is only one part of the equation. Imagine having the fastest, most advanced vehicle in the world, but with nowhere to refuel it on a long journey. This was the exact problem facing every EV owner, and it was the biggest barrier to widespread adoption. People called it range anxiety, the constant fear of your battery dying and leaving you stranded miles from home. How could an electric car ever truly replace a gasoline one if you couldn't drive it across the country? Tesla knew this wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was the central challenge they had to solve to make EVs practical for everyone. Their solution was as ambitious as the car itself. They decided to build their own refueling network from the ground up. This wasn't just about putting a few chargers in major cities. Tesla envisioned a network so vast and so fast that it would make long-distance electric travel not just possible, but effortless and enjoyable. This monumental undertaking would become known as the supercharger network, and it would change the world. So, what exactly is a supercharger? Think of it like this. Your home charger is like a garden hose, slowly but surely filling up your car's battery overnight. A public level 2 charger is a bit faster, like a fire hydrant, but a Tesla supercharger? That's a torrential waterfall. These stations were designed to deliver a massive amount of direct current power straight to the battery, bypassing the car's onboard charger. This meant you could add hundreds of miles of range in the time it takes to grab a coffee and stretch your legs, typically in just 20 to 30 minutes. It was a complete game changer, turning the dreaded long wait into a convenient pit stop. The plan was audacious. In 2012, alongside the launch of the Model S, Tesla unveiled its first supercharger stations. There were only 6 to start, strategically placed along high-traffic corridors in California. But this was just the beginning of a relentless, lightning-fast expansion. Elon Musk laid out a bold vision to connect the entire United States coast to coast. They weren't just building charging stations. They were creating a new kind of digital highway, a modern-day trail of electric rest stops. Engineers and construction crews worked at an incredible pace. They targeted key routes, connecting Los Angeles to San Francisco, then up to the Pacific Northwest. They blazed a trail from LA to Las Vegas and then pushed eastward, dotting the map with these futuristic red and white charging stalls. Each new station was a victory, another link in a chain that was steadily encircling the nation. By early 2014, just over a year after the first station opened, the dream became a reality. A driver could now officially travel from Los Angeles to New York City using only the supercharger network. It was a landmark moment, proving once and for all that electric cars weren't just for city commuting anymore. They were ready for the great American road trip. What made the network so brilliant was its design. Tesla didn't just plop chargers down randomly. They used sophisticated modeling to place them along major interstates and highways, spaced just right so that a driver would never have to worry about reaching the next one. The car's navigation system was fully integrated with the network. You'd simply enter your destination, and the car would automatically plan your route, including the necessary charging stops and how long you needed to charge at each one. This completely eliminated range anxiety. The car did the thinking for you, transforming a source of stress into a seamless, automated experience. Furthermore, Tesla made a decision that was both a masterstroke of marketing and a huge benefit for its customers. For early owners of the Model S, supercharging was free. For life, this created an incredible incentive to buy a Tesla. You weren't just purchasing a car. You were buying into an entire ecosystem, a future where your fuel was included. This move built immense brand loyalty and created a community of pioneers who felt they were part of something special. They were the first to experience the freedom of long-distance electric travel, sharing their stories and inspiring others to make the switch. With America conquered, Tesla set its sights on the rest of the world. The supercharger expansion went global at an astonishing rate. Soon, red and white charging stalls began popping up across Europe, connecting Oslo to Rome and Paris to Berlin. Drivers could now silently glide across the continent, through mountain passes and scenic countrysides without using a single drop of gasoline. The network then spread to Asia, blanketing China's bustling megacities and highways and expanding into Japan, South Korea, and Australia. Tesla's approach was radically different from anyone else's. While other companies waited for governments or third-party providers to build a fragmented patchwork of charging solutions, Tesla took control. They owned the technology, the locations, and the user experience from end to end. This ensured reliability and consistency. A driver pulling up to a supercharger in Norway would have the exact same simple plug-and-charge experience as a driver in Texas. There were no confusing apps, no different payment systems, no faulty chargers from a dozen different brands. It just worked every single time. This network became one of Tesla's most powerful competitive advantages, a moat, as they say in business, that other automakers struggled for years to cross. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about the scale and the speed of the rollout. By the time legacy car companies started getting serious about EVs, Tesla had already built a global, proprietary network that was years ahead of anything else. They had solved the chicken and egg problem. You can't sell a lot of EVs without chargers. But no one wants to build chargers if there aren't enough EVs. Tesla built both simultaneously. Today, the supercharger network is the largest and most reliable fast-charging network in the world, with tens of thousands of individual chargers at thousands of stations. It stands as a monumental achievement in infrastructure, built in less than a decade. It's the backbone that supports millions of Tesla vehicles on the road, making electric travel more convenient than ever before. This modern trail of digital rest stops didn't just charge cars. It charged a global movement, paving the way for an electric future and proving that with enough vision and determination, you really can change the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. The story of the supercharger network is a testament to the power of thinking big. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more of this incredible story to explore together. See you next time. Welcome back to our series. Today, we're diving into a crucial, often overlooked chapter in any great innovation story: the challenges and the critics. It's easy to look at success from the finish line and think it was a smooth, straight path. But the truth is, the road to revolution is almost always paved with obstacles, setbacks, and a chorus of doubters. This is the story of innovation meeting resistance. No grand vision gets off the ground without hitting some turbulence. In the early days, one of the biggest hurdles was simply getting the production line to run smoothly. Imagine trying to build something the world has never seen before, at scale. It's not just about having a brilliant design. It's about figuring out how to manufacture it consistently, efficiently, and with the highest quality. Production delays became a recurring headline. The team would announce a target, full of optimism, only to have to push it back. Each delay wasn't just a missed deadline. It was a blow to public confidence and a feast for the skeptics. The pressure was immense, both internally and externally. The media would jump on every missed target, painting a picture of a project in chaos. It felt like trying to build a rocket ship while the world watched, tapping its foot impatiently. These delays weren't happening in a vacuum. They were often the result of an obsessive focus on quality. When you're creating a new category of product, there are no existing standards to follow. You have to create them. This led to intense internal debates and countless iterations. Sometimes a component that worked perfectly in a prototype would fail under the stress of mass production. Other times, a supplier couldn't meet the stringent quality demands. There were moments when entire batches of early units had to be reworked because of minor imperfections that a traditional company might have let slide. These quality control issues were frustrating and costly, but they stemmed from a core belief: if this new technology was going to win people over, it couldn't just be good. It had to be perfect. Anything less would prove the critics, right? This relentless pursuit of perfection, while noble, stretched resources and timelines to their breaking point. Then came the safety debates. When you introduce a radically new technology, especially one that interacts so closely with people's lives, fear is a natural reaction. The media and the public alike began to scrutinize every aspect of the product's safety. Every incident, no matter how small or isolated, was magnified and broadcast to the world. Was this new way of doing things truly safe? Could it be trusted? These questions weren't just coming from consumers. They were amplified by regulators and competitors. The team found themselves in a constant battle of perception, needing to prove not just that their creation was safe, but that it was even safer than the established alternatives. This meant undergoing rigorous testing, being more transparent than anyone had ever been, and patiently educating the public, one data point at a time. It was a slow, grueling process of building trust, brick by painstaking brick. The narrative of dangerous and unproven was a powerful weapon for those who wanted to see the project fail. And there were many who wanted just that. The loudest chorus of skepticism came from the traditional automakers, the giants of the industry. For decades, they had operated on a proven formula. They saw this new venture not as the future, but as a novelty, a niche product for a few enthusiasts that would never achieve mainstream success. Executives from established companies would publicly dismiss the project, often with a condescending tone. They'd point to the production delays and financial struggles as clear evidence that the upstart didn't know what it was doing. "They don't understand the complexities of mass manufacturing," was a common refrain. "It's a nice idea, but it's not a viable business." This skepticism wasn't just talk. It influenced suppliers, investors, and policymakers. It created an environment where every small victory felt like a battle against an entrenched empire that believed the future should look a lot like the past. The financial strain during this period was immense. Burning through cash to solve production and quality issues, while facing a barrage of negative press and industry skepticism, put the entire enterprise on the brink of collapse more than once. There were dark days when it seemed like the critics would be proven right, when the sheer weight of the challenges seemed insurmountable. Employees worked around the clock, fueled by a belief in the mission but weighed down by the constant struggle. It took a unique kind of leadership to navigate this storm, to keep the team motivated, to reassure investors, and to maintain a calm, resolute face to the public, even when things were chaotic behind the scenes. This wasn't just about engineering a product. It was about engineering a company that could survive an onslaught of adversity. It required a level of resilience that few possess. Looking back, This period of struggle was as important as the initial breakthrough itself. It was a trial by fire. The production delays forced the team to reinvent manufacturing processes. The quality issues led to a new standard of excellence. The safety debates pushed them to be more transparent and rigorous than any competitor. And the skepticism from traditional industry giants? It only strengthened their resolve and clarified their mission. It's a powerful lesson. Resistance isn't just something to be overcome. It's something that can forge a stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more revolutionary outcome. The pressure didn't break them. It turned them into diamonds. It showed that true innovation isn't about having a perfect journey. It's about having the courage to face the imperfections, the critics, and the setbacks, and to just keep building, keep improving, and keep pushing forward, calmly and relentlessly, toward the future you believe in. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. The story of overcoming these challenges is what makes the final success so meaningful. If you found this insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of our journey. We love hearing your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Until next time, stay curious. Hello and welcome back to our journey through the history of electric vehicles. Today, we arrive at a pivotal moment, a chapter that redefined not just Tesla, but the very concept of driving itself. This is Chapter 13, Autopilot Awakens. Imagine getting into your car and with a simple double tap of a lever, it takes over. It steers, it brakes, it accelerates, all while you keep your hands lightly on the wheel, watching the world glide by. This wasn't science fiction anymore. In October 2015, this became a reality for thousands of Tesla owners overnight. Through an over-the-air software update, something previously associated only with smartphones, Tesla activated its autopilot system. Cars that were already on the road suddenly gained a new, almost magical capability. It was a bold move, a paradigm shift in the automotive industry. Other manufacturers were cautiously developing similar features in their labs, but Tesla deployed it directly to consumers, trusting them to use it responsibly. The initial version of Autopilot, what we now call Autopilot 1, was built using a combination of a forward-facing radar, a camera, and 12 long-range ultrasonic sensors. This hardware suite, which had been included in Model S cars since late 2014, was finally brought to life by the software. It offered two main features, autosteer and traffic-aware cruise control. Together, they allowed the car to maintain its lane and adjust its speed based on the vehicle ahead, primarily on highways. The public fascination was immediate and immense. Videos flooded the internet showing drivers with their hands off the wheel, their cars seemingly driving themselves down the highway. There were videos of pure astonishment, of drivers giggling with a mix of disbelief and glee. It felt like stepping into the future. For the first time, a semi-autonomous driving experience was not a concept car at an auto show. It was in your neighbor's driveway. People tested its limits, sometimes cautiously, sometimes recklessly. They wanted to see what it could do, how it would react. The car would smoothly navigate gentle curves on the highway, maintain a safe distance, and even change lanes with a flick of the turn signal. It was a dance between human and machine, a new kind of partnership on the road. The system wasn't perfect, of course. It would sometimes get confused by faded lane markings or complex interchanges, reminding the driver that this was an assistant, not a chauffeur. But when it worked, it was sublime. This leap forward, however, wasn't just a technological spectacle. It ignited a firestorm of ethical and philosophical debates that we're still navigating today. The very name autopilot was a point of contention. Critics argued it was misleading, implying a level of autonomy that the system simply didn't possess. Tesla maintained that the name was an aerospace analogy, and airplanes' autopilot assists the pilot, but doesn't replace them. Drivers were explicitly told to keep their hands on the wheel and remain attentive at all times. But how do you enforce attentiveness when the car is doing most of the work? This question struck at the heart of the human-machine interface. The system was designed to reduce the driver's workload, to make long, monotonous highway drives less tiring and safer. And initial data seemed to support this, suggesting that cars with autopilot engaged had a lower accident rate than those without. Yet, this promise of safety was shadowed by uncertainty. The introduction of semi-autonomous systems created new kinds of risk. There was the risk of over-reliance, of drivers becoming complacent and tuning out. And tragically, these risks became reality. Accidents, some of them fatal, occurred where autopilot was engaged. Each incident was scrutinized globally, becoming a headline and a data point in the intense debate. These events forced a difficult conversation. Who is responsible when a semi-autonomous car crashes? The driver? The manufacturer? The programmer who wrote the code? It brought the famous trolley problem out of the philosophy classroom and onto the asphalt. How should a car be programmed to react in an unavoidable accident? Should it prioritize its occupants' safety over a pedestrian's? Or should it follow a purely utilitarian logic to minimize overall harm? These are not easy questions. Tesla's approach was largely data-driven, using its fleet of cars as a massive data-gathering network. Every mile driven with autopilot provided more information, helping the neural network learn and improve. It was a process of evolution happening in real time, on public roads. This chapter in automotive history is one of duality. On one hand, you have the incredible promise of a safer, more efficient, and less stressful future of transportation. A future where human error, the cause of the vast majority of accidents, could be engineered away. The feeling of the car expertly navigating traffic is a glimpse into that world, a soothing and almost serene experience. On the other hand, you have the profound uncertainty and the weight of responsibility. The transition to autonomy is not a simple flip of a switch. It's a gradual process, and we are in its messy, complicated, and sometimes dangerous adolescence. The awakening of autopilot was the moment society at large had to start grappling with this new reality. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about our relationship with it, our trust in it, and our own limitations. The initial rollout of autopilot was more than just a new feature. It was a statement of intent, a declaration that the future of driving was not just electric but also intelligent. It challenged the entire industry to accelerate its own plans and forced regulators, insurers, and the public to confront the complex implications of handing control over to a machine. This period was characterized by a delicate balance, the thrill of the new, the comfort of the assistance it provided, and the ever-present awareness that this was a journey into uncharted territory. The promise was alluring, the path forward uncertain. The awakening of autopilot was the dawn of a new age, an age of intelligent mobility, and its story was, and still is, being written 1 mile at a time. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of the most transformative moments in modern automotive history. The conversation is far from over, and it's one we're all a part of. If you found this chapter as fascinating as I do, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more. We'd love to have you with us as we continue our journey. See you in the next one. Hello and welcome back to our series. Today, we're diving into Chapter 14, Awards and Acclaim. This is the moment when the Tesla Model S didn't just enter the automotive world. It completely reshaped it. We're talking about the transition of electric cars from a niche curiosity to the ultimate object of desire. So picture this, it's late 2012. The automotive industry is humming along, dominated by the usual suspects with their gasoline-powered engines. Electric cars? They were mostly seen as glorified golf carts or quirky, compliance-driven experiments. They were practical for a very small group of people, but they lacked soul. They weren't something you'd see on a teenager's bedroom poster. Then the Model S happened, and everything changed. One of the most seismic shifts occurred when Motor Trend, one of the most respected automotive publications in the world, was getting ready to announce its Car of the Year for 2013. The contenders were fierce, including icons like the Porsche 911 and the Honda Accord. But then came the verdict, and it sent shockwaves through the entire industry. The winner was the Tesla Model S. This wasn't just a win, it was a unanimous decision. The first time in the awards history, think about that. Every single judge agreed that this newcomer, this all-electric sedan from a Silicon Valley startup, was better than anything the established giants from Germany, Japan, and America had to offer. The editors at Motor Trend didn't hold back their praise. They called it a testament to the power of the possible and praised its mind-blowing performance and silky smooth ride. They weren't just judging it as an electric car. They were judging it as a car, period. And on every metric, performance, design, efficiency, value, it came out on top. This award was more than just a trophy for Tesla's display case. It was a massive stamp of validation from the heart of the old guard. It was the automotive Bible declaring that the future had arrived, and it was electric. Suddenly, people who had never considered an AV were paying attention. The conversation shifted from, why would you buy an electric car, to, have you seen that new Tesla? But the accolades didn't stop with performance and design. Tesla was equally obsessed with safety, and this was another area where they were determined to rewrite the rules. When the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, conducted its crash tests on the Model S, the results were astounding. The car earned a 5-star safety rating not just overall, but in every single subcategory. Frontal crash, side crash, rollover, all perfect scores. In fact, the Model S performed so well that it broke the testing equipment during the roof crush test. The machine just couldn't crush the car's roof. The final rating was actually 5.4 stars, even though the system was only designed to go up to 5. This was a game changer. The narrative around EVs had often included quiet concerns about safety, particularly around the battery pack. Tesla turned that narrative on its head. The Model S wasn't just as safe as a gasoline car. It was significantly safer. The low center of gravity from the floor-mounted battery made it incredibly stable and resistant to rollovers. The massive front frunk, where a traditional engine would be, acted as a giant crumple zone, absorbing impact energy far more effectively than a car with a solid engine block in the way. So now you have a car that's faster than a sports car, more efficient than a hybrid, more practical than most family sedans, and statistically the safest car ever tested on American roads. This combination was simply irresistible. This was the cultural tipping point. The moment electric cars shed their nerdy, compromised image and became cool. Celebrities were being photographed with their Model S, tech entrepreneurs and CEOs made it their daily driver. It started appearing in music videos and movies. It became a status symbol, but not in the old-fashioned, look how much money I have way. It was a symbol of being forward-thinking, tech-savvy, and conscious of the future. The Model S represented a new kind of luxury. It wasn't about rare leather or handcrafted wood trim, though it had a beautifully minimalist interior. It was about the luxury of effortless, silent acceleration. The luxury of a giant 17-inch touchscreen that controlled everything and updated itself overnight with new features. It was the luxury of driving past gas stations without a second thought. People weren't just buying a car. They were buying into an idea. They were buying a piece of the future. The desire for a Model S wasn't just about its specs on paper. It was an emotional connection. Driving one felt like you were part of a movement, a revolution against the status quo. It made traditional luxury cars from brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMW suddenly feel a bit old-fashioned, a bit analog in a digital world. The long waiting lists and the buzz on social media only fueled the fire. Tesla wasn't spending billions on advertising like its competitors. The car was its own advertisement. Every time a Model S silently glided past, it turned heads. Every time a passenger experienced that instant, gut-wrenching acceleration for the first time, a new advocate was born. This word-of-mouth marketing was more powerful than any Super Bowl ad could ever be. This chapter in Tesla's story is crucial because it lets where the company proved that an electric car didn't have to be a compromise. It could be the best car, full stop. The Model S didn't just win awards. It won hearts and minds. It redefined what a car could be and set a new, impossibly high bar for the entire automotive industry. The ripples from the splash it made are still shaping the cars we see on the road today. Every major automaker is now racing to catch up to the standard that Tesla set back in 2012. The Model S proved that you could have it all. Breathtaking performance, groundbreaking technology, top-tier safety, and zero emissions. It stopped being a curiosity and became an icon, an object of pure, unadulterated desire. And that, more than anything else, is its most enduring legacy. Thanks so much for joining me for this chapter. It's truly a pivotal moment in modern automotive history. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next part of our story. We've got so much more to explore. See you in the next video. Intro music fades in and then out. Hey everyone, and welcome back! Last time, we witnessed the birth of a legend as the Model S hit the streets, fundamentally changing the automotive landscape. But a revolution can't be confined to just one country. For Tesla, the next great frontier was the world itself. This is the story of how a Silicon Valley startup took its electric dream global. By 2013, the Model S was the talk of the town in California. a symbol of tech-forward thinking and eco-conscious luxury. But could this American sensation translate to the cobblestone streets of Europe or the bustling megacities of Asia? That was the billion-dollar question. Europe, with its deep-rooted automotive heritage home to giants like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi, was the first major test. Skeptics were everywhere. They argued European buyers were too loyal to their legacy brands. They said the infrastructure wasn't ready, but Elon Musk and his team saw it differently. They saw a continent with a strong environmental consciousness and a growing appetite for innovation. In the summer of 2013, the first Model S sedans were delivered to eagerly waiting customers in Norway, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Why Norway? The country was a perfect storm for Tesla's success. Generous government incentives made electric vehicles incredibly attractive. We're talking no import taxes, no VAT, access to bus lanes, and free charging. Suddenly, a top-spec Model S was competitively priced against a traditional luxury sedan. Norwegian buyers flocked to Tesla, and for a time, the Model S became the best-selling car of any kind in the country. It was a stunning victory that sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Tesla wasn't just shipping cars. They were building an ecosystem. Just like in the US, they began an aggressive rollout of their supercharger network across Europe. Imagine driving from the northern tip of Norway to the sun-drenched coast of Italy, all in a Tesla. This was the vision, and they were making it a reality, one charging station at a time. This network wasn't just a convenience. It was a powerful statement that long-distance electric travel was not a dream, but a present-day reality. It dismantled one of the biggest arguments against EVs, range anxiety. While Europe was falling for the Model S, another, even bigger prize was on the horizon: China. The world's largest auto market was grappling with severe air pollution, and the government was pushing hard for new energy vehicles. It was a market practically tailor-made for Tesla's mission. In early 2014, Tesla officially launched in China, opening a grand showroom in Beijing. The initial excitement was immense. However, the road in China was far from smooth. There were initial stumbles with charging standards, pricing confusion due to import taxes and shipping costs, and a public that was still learning about what it meant to own a fully electric car. Early sales didn't quite meet the sky-high expectations. Some media outlets were quick to write it off as a failure. But Tesla is nothing if not persistent. They learned, they adapted. They worked to build out a dedicated supercharger network for China, addressed customer concerns, and began to build a strong local team. Elon Musk himself visited China, emphasizing the company's long-term commitment. He understood that winning in China required more than just a great product. It required building trust and understanding the unique culture. The real turning point was the realization that to truly succeed in massive markets like China and Europe, Tesla couldn't just be an American exporter. They needed to become a local manufacturer. This seed of an idea, the concept of the Gigafactory, would eventually grow to redefine not just Tesla, but global manufacturing itself. We'll dive deeper into that in a future chapter, but the initial global push laid all the critical groundwork. Back in Europe, the supercharger network was becoming a web connecting the entire continent. Tesla owners were sharing stories of epic road trips, proving the car's capability and reliability. The Model S wasn't just a city car, it was a grand tourer. It started popping up in Paris, London, Berlin, and Rome. It became a status symbol, but a different kind. It wasn't about old-world, aristocratic luxury. It was about being part of the future. Driving a Tesla said you were smart, forward-thinking, and cared about the planet. This global expansion did more than just boost sales figures. It transformed Tesla's identity. It was no longer just a California car company. It was a global force, a legitimate contender on the world stage. The sight of a Model S silently gliding through the historic streets of Florence or parked outside a futuristic Shanghai skyscraper cemented its status as a truly global icon of modern luxury. The established automakers, who had initially dismissed Tesla as a niche player, were now in a state of panic. They were watching a newcomer not only steal their thunder but also redefine the very concept of a premium automobile in their own backyards. The Tesla killers we started hearing about from legacy brands? This global pressure was the primary catalyst. They were forced to accelerate their own EV plans, not by years, but by a decade. This chapter of Tesla's story is a masterclass in ambitious global strategy. It's about bold risks, learning from mistakes, and having an unwavering belief in the product and the mission. They didn't just sell a car. They sold a new way of thinking about mobility, energy, and the future. They proved that a single revolutionary product could transcend borders and cultures, uniting people under a common vision for a cleaner world. The Model S became the spearhead of this global movement, paving the way for the Model X, the world-changing Model 3, and everything that came after. The seeds of global dominance were sown here, in the cities and on the highways of Europe and Asia. That's all the time we have for today. The journey was fraught with challenges, but Tesla's successful global expansion set the stage for its meteoric rise to become the world's most valuable automaker. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next chapter. See you in the next one. Alright, let's dive back into the Tesla story. And this chapter, my friends, is where things get ludicrous. We're talking about the Model S P100D and the birth of a legend, ludicrous mode. If you thought the early Model S was impressive, you haven't seen anything yet. Tesla wasn't content with just making a great electric car. They were obsessed with making it better, faster, and more capable in every single way. The journey from the original P85 to the P100D is a masterclass in relentless innovation. Think about it. In the early days, range anxiety was the boogeyman of the AV world. Everyone was worried about running out of juice. Tesla tackled this head-on. With each new iteration, the battery packs got bigger and more efficient. We saw the 60, the 75, the 85, the 90. And then, the big one, the 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Suddenly, crossing the 300-mile barrier on a single charge wasn't just a dream. It was a reality you could buy. This wasn't just an incremental improvement. It was a psychological breakthrough. It told the world that electric cars could go the distance, just like their gasoline counterparts, and then some. But Tesla wasn't just chasing range. They were also refining the experience. The early Model S, revolutionary as it was, had its quirks. Over time, the build quality improved, the interior materials became more premium, and the software, as always, kept getting smarter. Features like autopilot were evolving at a dizzying pace, transforming the very nature of driving. The car was becoming more than just a car. It was a sophisticated piece of technology that was constantly learning and improving. It was a living, breathing product in a way no traditional car had ever been. And then there was the speed. Oh, the speed. This is where Elon Musk's flair for the dramatic really shone through. First, there was insane mode. The name alone was a stroke of marketing genius. It perfectly captured the gut-punching silent acceleration that left supercar owners speechless at traffic lights. You'd press the pedal, and the world would just blur. No roar, no drama, just instantaneous neck-snapping torque. It was a party trick, sure, but it was a party trick that fundamentally changed the perception of what an electric car could do. But why stop at insane? This is Elon Musk we're talking about. He took a page straight from the classic sci-fi comedy, Spaceballs, and gave us ludicrous mode. It was almost a joke, but the performance was anything but. To unlock this, Tesla didn't just tweak the software. They had to re-engineer the hardware. They developed a new, advanced smart fuse for the battery pack, one that could monitor current at the millisecond level and melt with extreme precision. This allowed them to safely push the battery's output from 1300 amps to 1500 amps. The result? The Model S P100D with ludicrous mode became one of the fastest accelerating production cars on the planet. We're talking 0 to 60 in the low 2-second range. That's faster than a falling object. It's faster than almost any multi-million-dollar hypercar. And it was coming from a 4-door family sedan that you could drive your kids to school in. This is the key point. Tesla turned performance into a spectacle. The drag race videos became a genre unto themselves on YouTube. A silent, unassuming Tesla sedan lining up against roaring Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches, and then just vanishing into the distance. It was David versus Goliath, over and over again, and David won every time. This wasn't just about bragging rights. It was about smashing the stereotypes of electric cars being slow, boring, glorified golf carts. Tesla proved, in the most dramatic way possible, that electric power wasn't a compromise, it was an advantage. The instant torque from the electric motors provided an experience that internal combustion engines simply couldn't replicate. It changed the entire conversation. Suddenly, The coolest car on the block wasn't the one that made the most noise. It was the one that made the least. Speed became silent. Performance became electric. The P100D with ludicrous mode wasn't just an update. It was a statement. It declared that the future of automotive performance had arrived, and it was powered by batteries. This move cemented the Model S not just as a great EV, but as a true halo car, a car that defied all expectations and captured the imagination of the public. It made people who didn't even care about sustainability or fuel savings suddenly want a Tesla, just for the sheer, mind-bending thrill of that acceleration. Reflecting on it now, the P100D and ludicrous speed were more than just engineering achievements. They were a cultural phenomenon. They were a masterstroke of marketing that used raw, undeniable performance to sell a vision of a cleaner, more exciting future. Tesla wasn't just selling a car. They were selling a ticket to that future, and they proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the future was going to be absurdly, ludicrously fast. It was a pivotal moment that set the stage for everything that was to come, proving that with enough ingenuity and a touch of showmanship, you could change the world, one silent drag race at a time. Thanks so much for watching and joining me on this chapter of the journey. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part of the story. See you in the next video. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a pivotal moment in automotive history, a time when a Silicon Valley upstart completely upended a century-old industry. This is the story of how the Tesla Model S forced the giants of German engineering BMW, Audi, Porsche, and Mercedes-Benz to wake up and face a new electric reality. For years, the legacy automakers had dabbled in electric concepts, but they were mostly compliance cars or futuristic showpieces. The real money, they believed, was still in gasoline and diesel. Then, in 2012, the Model S arrived. It wasn't just an electric car. It was a paradigm shift on wheels. It was faster off the line than many sports cars, had a usable range that crushed everything before it, and featured a massive touchscreen that made conventional dashboards look ancient. It was, simply put, the future delivered today. Initially, the German titans were dismissive. They viewed Tesla as a niche player, a tech company that didn't understand the complexities of mass-producing automobiles. They had their prestigious brands, their global manufacturing networks, and their loyal customer bases. What could this newcomer really do? But then, sales figures for the Model S started climbing, not just in California, but in their own backyards in Europe. Wealthy, tech-savvy buyers, the very demographic they coveted, were trading in their S-Classes and 7 Series for a Tesla. Panic started to set in behind the closed doors of boardrooms in Stuttgart, Munich, and Ingolstadt. It was a classic Kodak moment. They had the technology. They had the engineers, but they had underestimated the speed of the transition. The Model S wasn't just a car. It was a statement. It proved that electric vehicles could be desirable, high-performance, and practical. The narrative was no longer about compromise. It was about superiority. Suddenly, R&D budgets were dramatically reallocated. Projects that were once on the back burner were now top priority. Audi fast-tracked its e-tron program. You could almost feel the urgency. They needed an answer, and they needed it fast. The e-tron SUV was their first major counterattack, a vehicle designed to blend Audi's traditional luxury and build quality with long-range electric capability. It was a clear signal. We're in the game. Mercedes-Benz, the very inventor of the automobile, couldn't sit idle. They launched their EQ sub-brand, a multi-billion-dollar commitment to an entire family of electric vehicles. The first to market was the EQC, a crossover that aimed to deliver the hallmark comfort and luxury of a Mercedes, but with a silent, electric powertrain. It was a direct response to the Model X and the growing demand for premium electric SUVs. The message was clear. The star was electrifying. Over at BMW, the ultimate driving machine company had an interesting head start with the quirky i3 and the stunning i8 hybrid. But the Model S mainstream success showed them that the real market was for a no-compromise electric sedan. Their engineers were tasked with creating a true electric competitor, a car that could blend BMW's legendary driving dynamics with cutting-edge battery technology. This internal push would eventually lead to the i4 and the X. Vehicles designed to take Tesla on directly in the premium sedan and SUV segments. And then there was Porsche. For a brand built on the roar of flat-six engines and a legacy of racing dominance, the idea of a silent electric car was almost sacrilegious. But they saw the performance numbers of the Model S, ludicrous mode, and knew they couldn't be left behind. Their response was the Taycan. This wasn't just an electric car. It was a Porsche, through and through. They focused on repeatable performance, track day endurance, and a driving experience that was undeniably Porsche. The Taycan was their declaration that electricity could have a soul, and it was a direct shot across Tesla's bow, aiming for the title of the best-performing EV on the planet. What's fascinating is how each of these brands approached the challenge differently, filtered through the lens of their own identity. Mercedes focused on luxury, Audi on technology and design, BMW on driving pleasure, Porsche on ultimate performance. The Model S didn't just create a new market. It forced these legendary automakers to ask themselves fundamental questions about what their brand meant in an electric age. The pressure wasn't just in engineering. It was a race for battery supply, charging infrastructure, and software talent. Tesla had built its gigafactories and its supercharger network, creating a vertically integrated ecosystem that was incredibly difficult to replicate. The German automakers had to form new alliances, invest billions in battery plants, and completely rethink their software architecture, shifting from being hardware companies to tech companies. In retrospect, the Tesla Model S acted as the great catalyst. It lit a fire under an industry that had become comfortable, and some would say, complacent. It forced the world's best engineers to pivot, accelerating the transition to electric vehicles by at least a decade. The giants were woken from their slumber, and the resulting competition has been incredible for us, the consumers. It's unleashed a wave of innovation, giving us more choice, better technology, and a more exciting automotive future than we ever could have imagined. The Model S didn't just take notice. It changed the entire game. Thanks so much for watching. The story of this electric revolution is still unfolding, and it's an amazing time to be a fan of cars and technology. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments which of the traditional automakers you think has responded best to the Tesla challenge. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to the channel. We've journeyed through nearly 2 decades of Tesla's history, witnessing a revolution unfold from a mere concept to a global force. Today, we arrive at Chapter 18. The era of a car that didn't just move the goalposts, it launched them into a different dimension. This is the era of the Model S Plaid. As we crossed into the 2020s, the automotive world was already electrified, largely thanks to the seeds Tesla had planted. Competitors were finally bringing their own EVs to market, and the landscape was becoming crowded. But Tesla, as always, was several steps ahead. They weren't just thinking about range or practicality anymore. They were thinking about shattering every preconceived notion of what a four-door sedan could do. Enter the Model S Plaid, the name itself. A nod to the ludicrous speed in the movie Spaceballs, was a playful hint at the sheer insanity lurking beneath its familiar, sleek exterior. While the Model S had always been quick, the Plaid was something else entirely. It was a statement. It was a tri-motor, all-wheel drive behemoth disguised as a family car. Let's talk about those motors. One motor powering the front axle and 2 independent motors on the rear axle. This wasn't just about adding more power. It was about achieving unprecedented control. The tri-motor setup allowed for true torque vectoring, meaning the car could send precise amounts of power to each rear wheel independently. On a racetrack, this translates to physics-defying cornering. On a drag strip, it translates to pure, unadulterated acceleration that pins you to your seat with a force that feels almost surreal. And the numbers? They were, and still are, staggering. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. A quarter-mile time that embarrasses purpose-built supercars costing 10 times as much. For years, the automotive community debated whether a production sedan could ever break the 2-second barrier. The Model S Plaid didn't just break it. It did so with room for 5 people, a trunk full of groceries, and a massive touchscreen to watch Netflix on while you charge. The interior also received a significant refresh, introducing the controversial but undeniably futuristic yoke steering wheel. It was a bold move, designed to provide an unobstructed view of the instrument cluster and the road ahead. Whether you loved it or hated it, it was classic Tesla, challenging convention and pushing the boundaries of design and user experience. The entire cabin felt cleaner, more modern, reflecting a car that was as much a high-tech gadget as it was a mode of transportation. The Plaid wasn't just about straight-line speed, though. It was the culmination of everything Tesla had learned about battery technology, thermal management, and software integration. To deliver over 1,000 horsepower consistently without overheating required a complete re-engineering of the battery pack and cooling systems. The software that controlled it all was more sophisticated than ever, managing the immense power flow with millisecond precision. It was a testament to the power of vertical integration, where hardware and software are developed in perfect harmony. Now, let's take a moment and rewind. Cast your mind back to 2003, back to the very beginning. Remember the skepticism? The laughter? The widespread belief that electric cars were nothing more than glorified golf carts? The experts who said a startup from Silicon Valley stood no chance against the titans of Detroit and Germany? They said an AV could never be desirable, never be fast, and certainly never be profitable. The Model S Plaid stands as a quiet, devastatingly fast rebuttal to every single one of those doubts. It represents the full circle of Tesla's journey. It's the physical embodiment of a dream that started with a handful of engineers who believed in a better way to power our vehicles. From a fragile, hand-built Roadster to a 1,000-horsepower super sedan that could be summoned from a parking spot with a phone, the evolution is nothing short of breathtaking. The Plaid is more than just a car. It's a symbol. It is a symbol of how far electric performance has come and a tantalizing preview of where it's headed. It proved that electric isn't just a green alternative. It is the superior performance technology. It forced the entire automotive industry to stop benchmarking against gasoline-powered rivals and start looking at the new king of acceleration. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche, they all had to take notice. The game had fundamentally changed, and the benchmark was now electric. The story of the Model S Plaid is a story of relentless innovation and the refusal to accept limitations. It's about taking an already revolutionary product and pushing it to an extreme, not because it was necessary but simply to show that it could be done. It's a defining chapter in Tesla's history, showcasing the company's mature engineering prowess and its undiminished, rebellious spirit. What an incredible machine, and what an incredible journey to get here. The Plaid era solidified Tesla's position not just as an EV leader but as a leader in automotive performance, period. It set a standard that will be difficult to surpass, though knowing Tesla, they are probably already working on it. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. We're nearing the end of our series, but there are still a few more crucial developments to cover as we look towards the future. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final episodes. It really helps the channel, and I love having you all here. See you in the next video. Hello, and welcome back to our series. Today, we're diving into Chapter 19, Legacy of an Icon. We're talking about a car that did more than just move people. It moved an entire industry. This is the story of the Tesla Model S and the world it helped create. Let's rewind the clock just a little over a decade. What did you think of when you heard the words electric car? For most people, it conjured images of glorified golf carts, slow, impractical, and frankly a bit goofy. They were seen as a compromise, a sacrifice you made for the environment. The idea that an electric car could be cool, fast, or desirable, that was science fiction. The world wasn't just skeptical, it was openly laughing. Then in 2012, something changed. The Tesla Model S rolled onto the scene, silent, but with a roar of ambition. This wasn't a compromise. This was a masterpiece of engineering and design. It was a full-size luxury sedan that looked sleek and futuristic. It had a giant touchscreen that felt like something out of a spaceship. And the performance? It was breathtaking. 0 to 60 in under 4.5 seconds for the performance model at the time. It wasn't just faster than other electric cars. It was faster than most high-performance gasoline cars on the road. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. The Model S wasn't just a car. It was a statement. It proved that you didn't have to choose between sustainability and performance, or between efficiency and luxury. You could have it all. This was the car that made electric vehicles aspirational. People who had never considered an EV were now dreaming of owning a Tesla. It became a status symbol, not just for wealth, but for being forward-thinking. The cultural impact was seismic. You started seeing the Model S in movies, in music videos, and parked in the driveways of trendsetters and tech moguls. It single-handedly redefined the image of the AVE from a niche, eco-conscious choice to the pinnacle of automotive innovation. Driving a Model S meant you were part of the future. It made sustainability desirable, even sexy. The world was no longer laughing at electric cars. They were lining up to buy them. This ripple effect didn't just stop with consumers. It sent a shockwave through the entire automotive industry. For decades, legacy automakers had dabbled in electric concepts, but few took them seriously. They were compliance cars, built to meet regulations, not to inspire passion. The Model S was a wake-up call, a very loud, very fast wake-up call. Suddenly, every major car manufacturer had to scramble. Boardrooms in Detroit, Stuttgart, and Tokyo were filled with emergency meetings. The question was no longer if they should build a compelling electric car, but how quickly they could catch up to Tesla. The Model S set a new benchmark. It forced competitors to invest billions of dollars into their own EV programs, accelerating the development of electric technology by at least a decade. Think about the electric cars available today from brands like Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, Ford, and Hyundai. The Taycan, the e-tron GT, the Mustang Mach-E. Every single one of them exists, in part, because the Model S proved there was a massive, hungry market for premium, high-performance EVs. It created the very playground that all these other automakers are now competing in. It lit a fire under the industry, forcing innovation at a pace not seen since the early days of the automobile. Beyond the showroom floor, the Model S fundamentally reshaped our expectations of what a car could be. Before Tesla, the idea of a car getting better over time with a software update was unheard of. A car was a finished product the day you bought it. The Model S introduced the concept of over-the-air updates. Your car could wake up in the morning with new features, improved performance, or a better user interface. It transformed the car from a static piece of hardware into a dynamic, evolving piece of technology, more like a smartphone than a traditional vehicle. This concept has now become a standard expectation. Customers demand connected cars that improve with age, and other manufacturers are racing to replicate this software-defined experience. This shift is arguably one of the most profound changes in the automotive world in a century, and it was pioneered by the Model S. Then there's the infrastructure. Before Tesla, the biggest hurdle for EVs was charging. Public charging was a fragmented, unreliable mess. Tesla didn't just sell a car. They sold an entire ecosystem. The supercharger network was a stroke of genius. By building their own proprietary high-speed charging network, they eliminated the biggest point of anxiety for potential buyers: range anxiety. You could now realistically take a long-distance road trip in an EV with charging stops that were fast, reliable, and seamlessly integrated into the car's navigation. This holistic approach set a standard for what a comprehensive EV ownership experience should look like, pushing the entire industry to think beyond just the vehicle itself. And of course, we have to talk about the environmental impact. While the debate over the full lifecycle emissions of any product is complex, there's no denying the role the Model S played in accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. Every Model S on the road represented a gasoline car that wasn't. It normalized the idea of plugging in your car instead of filling it up at a gas station. But its real environmental legacy is bigger than just the tailpipe emissions of the cars themselves. It's about inspiration. The success of the Model S and Tesla as a company showed the world that a business built on a foundation of sustainability could be wildly successful and profitable. It inspired a new generation of entrepreneurs, engineers, and investors to pour their talent and capital into clean technology, from battery manufacturing and renewable energy generation to grid storage solutions. The Model S was the poster child for the idea that green technology could be great business. It proved that you could build a product that was better in every measurable way: faster, quieter, safer, more technologically advanced, and it just happened to be electric. This was the key. It didn't lead with the environmental message as a sacrifice. It led with a superior product, and the environmental benefit was the incredible world-changing bonus. Looking back, the legacy of the Model S is clear. It wasn't just the first successful electric car of the modern era. It was a cultural catalyst. It was an industrial disruptor. It was a technological pioneer. It took the electric car from a punchline to a benchmark. It challenged a century of automotive tradition and forced the entire world to rethink what a car is and what it can be. The Model S didn't just put Tesla on the map. It redrew the map for everyone. It ignited the EV movement, turned skepticism into aspiration, and proved that a sustainable future doesn't have to be a compromise. It can be exciting, luxurious, and unbelievably fast. The legacy of the Model S isn't just in the cars we see on the road today. It's in the cars that will be designed for decades to come, and in the cleaner, quieter, and more exciting automotive world it helped to create. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the legacy of an icon. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in our story. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What impact did the Model S have on you? We'll see you in the next video. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey, but for Tesla and for all of us, it's just the beginning of a new road. Chapter 20. The Road Ahead. After everything we've explored, the triumphs, the controversies, the sheer audacity of it all, what comes next? For Tesla, the mission remains unchanged, as clear and ambitious as it was on day one, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's a mission that has now expanded far beyond just building cars. We're talking about a future where your home generates its own power from solar roofs, stores it in power walls, and uses that clean energy to charge the vehicle in your driveway. This isn't science fiction. It's the integrated ecosystem Tesla is actively building, piece by piece. The supercharger network, once a lonely outpost for early adopters, is now a global web of energy increasingly powered by renewables. The gigafactories, these colossal monuments to modern manufacturing, are not just car plants. They are battery factories, innovation hubs, and the engines of this electric transition. Each new factory built, from Berlin to Austin, is a statement, a commitment to scaling up production at a rate the auto industry has never witnessed. But the road ahead isn't a solitary one. The landscape has fundamentally changed. When the Model S first debuted, the idea of a premium long-range electric car was revolutionary. Now, nearly every major automaker has entered the ring. From the historic assembly lines of Detroit to the precision engineering hubs in Germany and the dynamic tech centers in Asia, the competition is fierce and growing every day. Giants like Volkswagen, Ford, Hyundai, and a wave of innovative Chinese brands like BYD and NIO are all pushing the boundaries of what an EV can be. This isn't a threat to Tesla's mission. It's the ultimate validation of it. Tesla didn't just want to sell electric cars. It wanted to force the entire industry to build them. And on that front, it has succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The race is no longer about asterisk if asterisk the world will go electric, but asterisk how fast asterisk and asterisk who will lead the charge asterisk. This competition benefits all of us. It means more choices, better technology, lower prices, and faster innovation. It accelerates the very transition Tesla set out to achieve. Beyond the cars themselves, the next frontier is autonomy. Full self-driving is perhaps Tesla's most ambitious and controversial project. It's a promise of a future where our cars are more than just transport. They're intelligent companions that can navigate the complexities of our world, giving us back our most valuable resource: time. The path to true autonomy is fraught with technical, regulatory, and ethical challenges. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and every software update, every mile driven by the fleet, is a small step toward that monumental goal. Whether Tesla will be the first to cross the finish line remains one of the most compelling questions of our time. Simultaneously, the quest for better batteries continues. The 4680 cell, a new battery architecture developed in-house, promises to be a game-changer. By increasing energy density and dramatically reducing manufacturing costs, it could be the key that unlocks a truly affordable, mass-market electric vehicle, the long-awaited Model 2 or whatever form it may take. This isn't just about making cars cheaper. It's about making sustainable energy accessible to everyone, everywhere. And let's not forget the Optimus bot. A humanoid robot may seem like a bizarre pivot for a car company, but in Elon Musk's grand vision, it's a logical extension. If you can solve the complex AI problem of self-driving cars, you have the foundational technology to create a robot that can understand and interact with the physical world. The goal is to tackle dangerous, repetitive, or boring tasks, potentially reshaping the very nature of labor itself. It's a moonshot, a long-term bet that is either pure genius or spectacular folly, and with Tesla, it has always been a fine line between the two. So, as we look to the horizon, what do we see? We see a company that refuses to stand still, driven by a relentless sense of urgency. We see an industry that has been irrevocably transformed. And we see a world on the cusp of a profound energy revolution. The challenges are immense: scaling production, solving autonomy, navigating a complex geopolitical landscape, and winning a battle for hearts and minds that is still far from over. But the momentum is undeniable. The quiet hum of an electric motor is slowly but surely replacing the roar of the internal combustion engine. The question is no longer, will my next car be electric? But rather, when? As we close this final chapter, take a moment. Step outside and listen. That subtle, quiet change in the sound of our streets, that growing sense of possibility, that's the future arriving. The electric age isn't a distant promise whispered by futurists. It's not coming anymore, it's already here. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this series, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the technologies and stories shaping our world. We have so much more to explore together. Until next time, stay curious,